Welcome to episode 2 of The Ultimate Insider Reveals, a limited edition podcast centered on King of Soca. The Ultimate Insider reveals how Machel Montano became one of the world's most popular soca artists. And I'm back here with Lady Montano. Of course, I'm Adin Serju, if you didn't catch episode 1. And we are still talking all things King of Soca. But this time, lady, we're going to hear from you. We're going to have you read for us from the book. And I've chosen these excerpts just because of how they land with me personally, and also because I think the audience will benefit from some of the context. And I think they'll be rushing out to buy the book afterwards. That's the point, right? So, lady, we're starting, of course, with Too Young to Soca, that time, the March Gras 1986. And that is really where most of us come to know Machel Montano. Well, most of us of a certain age, let me specify, come to know Machel, know of him. And I think it's a great place to start to hear from you on this occasion.
On the night of the March Gras 1986, Machel had the crowd singing along word for word while they wondered whether his homemade baby diaper costume, which kept falling, was a costume malfunction or part of his act or black magic set by the older Calypsonians. The question was never answered. Much controversy surrounded Machel and us as his parents, as not only did Machel perform at events such as the March Gras, but he was also taught at home. The critics failed to realize or were unaware of what was going on in our real space. Both Monty and I were school teachers at the time. Later, Monty was a petroleum geologist and I was a guidance counselor. Our children lived a very structured life, and education was a priority. Machel went on to successfully complete the Common Entrance Examination, now called SEA, required for entry into secondary school. An article headlined Machel in the Sunday Punch newspaper reported the great news. Subsequently, Machel entered Presentation College San Fernando, where he graduated in 1991 with 9 ordinary level secondary school finals subjects.
Lady, take us back to that time. That's at the very start. It's one of the things you talk about. From the beginning, Machel has been embroiled in controversy because people didn't understand what they were seeing. Well, they had never seen anything like this before. Such a young child taking part in carnival, which, still had some issues, still landed a particular way with older people, I'm sure, very conservative people. So take us back to that period for you and the Montano family.
Well, I want to go back earlier than 1986, because 1986 wasn't the start. This particular song in 1986, Too Young to Soca, was born out of 1984. When 1984 is when he came on stage with the letter, singing, sending a letter to the Ministry or the Minister of Education, talking about the behavior of some of the teachers. And after that, we went into our first controversy. And then we decided we wanted to write something about it. And Machel, myself, and Monty, we got together with the ideas and we went to Winsford Devines. And that was the birth of Too Young to Soca. And if you listen to the lyrics, you will hear it. But it refers to between that 84, 86 year. When I remember to the experience of when he went, he was singing in the tent.
And that was a big part of the issue.
That was a big part of it. Plus, it was a big part that he got into the semifinals and came first in the semifinals. But he was singing Too Young to Soca and I Love My Country. And then Kitchener had, I think he said that they should disqualify Machel because if they encourage him to go to the finals, everybody's child will now go into the Calypso Monarch finals and win, or maybe appear to win or whatever, the $30,000
Does that, did it sound as ridiculous then as it does now? I mean, hearing that as a real complaint, did you find it ridiculous as Machel's mother and manager? Well, you weren't managing him properly.
I don't ever judge anything. I just know when I heard it, I I thought something else. But in
What
any
you
case,
thought?
nobody.
What you thought, lady? Come on, tell us.
They're afraid the licks. That is
Right.
what, is
Yes.
that Marshall posed a threat, and which he did because he came first in the semifinals. And he posed such a threat that they brought up, they went to the judges or to the organization that was in charge, saying that I Love My Country was written before Ash Wednesday. So therefore, it could not go to the finals.
And that was something I did not know.
Yes. The song has to be written after Ash Wednesday of the year. And I didn't know this. But, and they won. So we had to do a new song. It was called Get Up and Get. It was written too by Winsford. And it was the first time he was going to sing it because he had to learn it in a week. And then he picked one. So he was the first contestant. But when he went out there, he was such a brave child. He
even with the falling diaper.
Yeah, man. He created his own scenario, his own theatrics, because all babies' diapers do fall, and he was there pulling up the diaper. Nobody knew, as I said, nobody knew whether it was deliberate because, babies' diapers do fall, as I said, or whether it was a malfunction. Or in those days, they used to say all these old Calypsonians used to be doing their black magic backstage, and it might be that. Well, that had no effect on us. But Marshall did go to the finals with that, and he came fifth, and he beat quite a few of the big names. This again caused another controversy, but we did it, and we're here today.
Exactly, to tell the story.
But not too young to soca now.
Not at all. So I want us to go on to the second reading, and this is a huge bias of mine, right? I will never forget Big Truck. I will never forget where I was, what form I was in school at Bishop's, and how this song resonated with me and all of my friends and family. And it really was a turning point, not just for us and our experience of Carnival, but for the music, for soca music. So we'll read from it, we'll hear you read from it, and then you'll tell us about it.
Okay, here we go. After the 1996 Bajan invasion, Marshall was motivated to create a new sound. Building on his international exposure with Come Dig It, 1995, he sought to advance his music in new directions. One of the major changes came with Big Truck. At that time, the Carnival Parade in Trinidad flowed out of Port of Spain along the Audrey Jeffers Highway, the foreshore, a highway that runs along the shore of the mountainous northwest peninsula of Trinidad. The masqueraders, the costumed participants of the Carnival Parade, needed to literally run behind the truck in order to keep up. This sparked the idea for the Big Truck lyrics. Run behind the big truck, jump behind the big truck. By the standards of the day, Big Truck was revolutionary and became another signature song for Marshall and his band. I clearly remember audiences becoming frenzied when they heard the truck horns and Marshall's call at the top of the song. Yeah, 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 yeah.
We all know that.
Clear the way, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think this excited the people. I was standing on the stage at Carnival in 1997, just as Marshall and Ecstatic were going to start their set, when the truck horn blew at the start of Marshall's performance. The fans outside the Brass Festival venue, patrons who were waiting to enter the venue, scaled the fence in a frenzy to get inside. It looked like a stampede. Massive flags of various colors and depictions were waving frantically as dust rose from beneath the jumping and pounding feet. It was like the ocean with waves rushing to the shore. The reaction to the performance was crazy.
Yeah, and I think you do it justice in your description, because I remember how we felt. And I feel like there was something new about the energy that Big Truck brought to the scene. But tell us a little bit about what preceded it.
The Big Truck, as we said, I remember when It was 1996 when I think they moved the parade. The parade was on the foreshore. And the trucks were moving so fast that people actually had to run behind it. So this is where that came up. But Marshall said to me before he wrote the song, he said, lady, what is the one big thing? The one big thing that everybody could relate to at Carnival. And he said the big truck. And then he wrote the big truck and he said this is going to be the road march. But doing the big truck, he didn't just do it like that. He took his entire band to New York. He locked them away in an apartment and he said, we are going to take control here. And they stayed there and they developed that whole album, that whole heavy duty album, which is also a signature album. And we had quite a number of hits coming out of it. And then Big Truck went on to win the road march. And out of Big Truck, you find that Toro Toro was born.
Yes, you also gave the story about that. That same year, he got the idea for Toro Toro.
Yeah, because when the Big Truck thing had them so much in a frenzy that when they came off the stage, they was rushing back on the stage like a stampede. Like if the running of the bulls, and he got the idea for Toro Toro.
Another high energy one.
Yes.
Ooh, I remember
and
that.
Still
too.
a hit.
Yes. So we're going to go now, lady, to reading 3. And in this one, we talk about that HD transition that we mentioned previously. And I decided to highlight this again because it signaled a clear shift for Machel in terms of the music and where he was headed. In terms of his living on purpose and creating on purpose as well.
As HD, Machel presented himself simply and with more clarity in his messages. His look was one of increasing maturity and seriousness. On this journey of reinvention, Machel made a major decision on his direction and created other opportunities to develop his image and his brand. A number of books assisted him in his development, including Freedom, Power and Grace, Shine, Angel's Book, the Bhagavad Gita, Bob Marley, Tipping Point, Get in the Headspace, Trinidad Carnival, and The Power of Now. Machel wanted to change what the public saw, heard, and knew about him. He was becoming a more spiritual being. When one looks at this change in brand and image, you see someone seeking identity and trying to maintain relevance. He kept up with what was taking place in the technologically developing world that is HD and changed to suit this world. The HD band was formed at the same time that the HD concept was launched in 2007. The original HD band comprised Machel's musicians, which included Colonel Roberts, Dwayne Antrobus, Darian Bailey, Sean Mitchell, and the now deceased Sheldon Shellshock Benjamin, a group of talented musicians who accompanied Machel and the HD family. This name remained until 2015 when Machel made another image change.
And the thing about that, I remember it was new, I think, for many people, the idea of an artist being so very intentional about changing gears, and there was a big splash about it as well publicly. The HD bus came on board, and there were things that we'd never seen in our industry before. And it really speaks to, and you detail this in the book, the vision for that sort of international presence and where he was headed. Tell us a little bit more about that. Give us some more insight into that.
Well, with the HD2 came a time when Machel also wanted to change the positioning of the other people in the band. And he created the HD family because the other members were now becoming independent and they were also becoming consistent. So we had in the HD family, you had Patrice Roberts, you had Farmer Nappy, you had Zan, and you had a few others in there. And Machel gave them the opportunity to expand, to do their solo performances, and then he would also do his, because he wanted to kind of step back a little and let the others take over. But doing this, he also wanted us to make a difference. As I said, he wanted us to deliver a clearer message to the world. He also saw the world changing. And like Marshall, every 3-4 years, Marshall is always ready to change with the times. And I think that this motivated him very much. And he changed not just his music, but he changed his look. And he also changed the, as I say, the band. And of course, his spirituality changed along the way.
What was the experience of communicating this shift to the family, as in the HD family, and everybody who'd been a part of the team up to that point? Because I imagine, I'm not sure if he's taking them along with him in terms of giving them insight into the shift that he's making psychologically, spiritually, in the way that you would have known. And so I'm just wondering if everybody sort of was required to come on board and shift gears as well.
Because he prepared them. He sort of prepared them. This was in 2007. Mm-hmm. And, by then, for example, Nappy was writing great music. And Marshall felt that, the time has come for it to come out from below my wings. And Patrice had already won a road march with him. And, they were coming of their own. So Marshall really encouraged them to show them. What he did was he created an album separate for them called the HD Family. So that he gave them that space to become their own person or to develop their potential. And as he did this, he encouraged them. Some of them was a little difficult for them because they didn't really understand it. But even it might have taken years for them to realize, look at how it worked out. Because Nappy and Patrice today are the most sought after individual artists. So They have done well on their own,
So we go to reading 4 now. And here, and this comes from a part of the book titled Vulnerability, I'm Only Human. And this intrigued me because I think when we talk about Marshall, the persona, as we do with many artists and public figures, we forget that they have their own interior worlds that they're navigating and their shortcomings as well. And because he's a public figure, those shortcomings may be displayed publicly. And we have a way as an audience, sometimes we're unforgiving and we don't understand. And so I thought it would be good to have the audience hear an excerpt of this part.
But it's okay to not understand. Eh?
Of course.
But at the same time, willing to learn and hear and listen.
Of course, lady.
Okay. Most times we look at artists or stars as being larger than life. But in reality, they are people just like you and me, experiencing similar situations and having the same level of vulnerability. Over the years, I've observed Marshall, who is a perfectionist, and I've observed him closely. When he cannot reach a major goal or achieve a particular outcome, frustration creates anger in him. For example, he would get angry when he felt people with whom he was working were not understanding or getting things right, even though expectations were practiced or explained several times. He would get angry when mistakes were then made on stage where he felt he had not achieved his intended goal. Sometimes the perfectionist goals were unattainable because the people they were dealing with weren't capable of that level of performance. I feel that sometimes Marshall needs to be more tolerant and understand that people have different learning capabilities and limitations. He is very detailed, learns fast, and demands the same from others. Marshall has needed to grow in understanding and working with people who have different ways of being and different attributes. He needed to learn to channel his anger into a more constructive energy as part of his personal growth. Although I am also very detailed, I accept that people are different, likely a combination of my personality and my training as a teacher and guidance counselor. But just as I don't judge other people, I don't judge Marshall. After years of working on his professional development alongside his personal development, Marshall needed to surmount his anger by channeling it into a more positive energy. And this started to happen. And people began to take notice of the change. One such observation came from an individual who witnessed members of a party surprise Marshall by throwing paint in his face, on his clothes, and into his vehicle. Marshall just left the scene and went to clean himself up. The observer said jokingly to the group that they were lucky to have met Marshall at that stage of his life. Years before, he would have shut down the party and everybody would have been sent home. In terms of channeling his energies, parallel to Marshall's increasing involvement in yoga and meditation over the years, we observed that his personal growth has been positively affecting his professional attitude and development. The change is very apparent in the Monk Monty period, where Marshall developed a different outlook in life. He recognized he needed to change and acted to achieve just that.
I think that's so important, lady. And I am interested to know how you manage that part of your relationship, particularly in the period where he was still dealing with finding a way to deal with the frustration and anger of not achieving perfectionism.
Well, I always, as his mother and also being a guidance counselor, I taught him these things. I said to him, Marshall, not everybody is like you. Not everybody is going to understand something at the same time or at the same level as you, right? One of these things, Marshall has a natural way of learning things. And I think that Marshall is very bright. And as I said, he reads a lot and everything so that it's just natural to him. But he catches things very quick. So he will be with me there, quarreling with me and say, lady, come on, now, man, you can't understand this. This thing's simple. And poor me, I confuse. I don't know, but then I know and I recognize his ability. But I try to teach him all the time that he has to know that other people may not have that same capability as him. And I think as years went by, he eventually learned. And then again, as he progressed in developing that, his personal development and that spiritual persuasion, he learned this and I think it's a new Marshall. As the person said, they're lucky. They're lucky. I was there that night.
You were.
Yeah, and he just went and cleaned up and fixed
Because I was imagining that scene as I read it, and I thought, whew.
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine how
everybody
else this could have ended.
That would have been home one time.
But did you ever have any concern that maybe he wasn't learning quickly enough? Or that it could get him in trouble? Or...
You see, again, going way back, Marshall learns everything at his speed and he does things when he's ready. And we are parents that never force our children. We would advise them and we will look. And sometimes what the public is seeing happening out there, they don't know what is happening behind the stage. And a lot of times I support him because we are there working with these people and explaining to them hours and days and weeks and having meetings. And when we reach to the point of where we have to deliver, they fall short after all of this, or they just ignore it, and then they expect us or they expect Marshall to go along. And he just doesn't, I think now he might tolerate it a little more, but...
Well, I guess that's left to be seen.
Well, I think I have seen it.
Right.
Because somewhere I saw him performing, and I think the person, the DJ wasn't, familiar with him, and he was very good, very cool, and he knew how to mask it.
Yes, of course.
So
because that's the thing, right? It's really about how we manage it. Going forward.
Yes. And I think that he is more matured now, so he knows how to deal with it.
And I think many of us are also intrigued by what we've seen from him in 2021 and even before, going down the path of, following Sadhguru and the sort of public declaration of these things, to see how it it shows up in 2023 for Carnival. I think it's all very exciting for those of us who are looking on. All right, so the final reading is actually your final page of the book.
What a journey. When we consider the attributes that Marshall exhibited from his early years, it's no surprise that he's been so successful. Yet, without the help and support of others to help him build a sustainable business model, one that focused not just on his career, but also on his personal transformation, would he have been or would he have become the king of soca? Would his music have transformed the soca genre and transcended international boundaries? Would he have spawned a new generation of artists? I think not. You can change your world, but you can't do it alone. And you must be willing to change yourself in the process. That takes courage, willingness to learn from your mistakes, and generosity of heart, mind, and spirit. I hope I've achieved my goal.
And you know, one of the things that strikes me, especially nearing the end of the book, well, throughout, because you have these pearls of wisdom that you share with us throughout, and you come across as a coach as well, which I think is part of what it means to manage someone like Marshall.
I think it's one the teacher.
And the guidance counselor.
The teacher. I think it's the teacher. I've been teaching since I'm a child.
And toward the end of the book, you also highlight a few of those characteristics, and you take a deep dive into each of them in terms of things that people perhaps may need to embody or learn, acquire, skills, etc., in order to achieve a certain level of success. I was wondering if you'd be willing to share just one of those with us.
As I said, resilience. Resilience to me is one of the most important because our journey has not been a straight road, and we have had a lot of experiences that some people would have folded up if they were part of it, but what I notice is every time it happened to us, Marshall will come out stronger. If, for example, people opposed him or he had controversy, he would go deep inside or he will go in, and the next time he comes out, you can't beat him. So I think resilience is one of the greatest. Well, work ethic, I could go on and on and on.
I know.
But I think resilience is most important because I always taught my children, never be disappointed, don't be disheartened, don't feel that you mustn't fail, everything must succeed, and take everything as it comes. Take everything, in that light. I tell people again, we go back to, if I can't do something about something, it doesn't make sense I worry or I work up myself about it. If I could change it, or if I could do something to pull myself out of it, then let's do it.
So you don't have high blood pressure at all, lady?
I have the blood pressure of a teenager.
I believe that.
They tell me this when I go 116 over 76. So that's for sure. When I lie down in the night, I sleep very deeply and I say, why worry? The sun will rise in the morning anyway. And this is how I look at life. We are always deep into our purpose, focused, aware, and conscious.
Lady, thank you so much for those reflections and the insights into some of what you've read. And of course, there's so much more, over 280 pages worth of stunning photographs, some real throwbacks as well, over decades, and of course, a lot of stories. So thank you so much for sharing this. This is just the first part or the second part of what is coming up. We intend to hear from you and Marshall together at some point, so we look forward to that. And again, all the best.
Thank you very much. I hope you'll have good things to say.